Well, I'm joined now. We've got another episode of Kent Film Club coming up, so Chris joins me in the studio. Chris, Scooby-Doo, would you say horror?
Well, when I was younger, that would have been the go-to, I think, on TV. I'm not sure on Valentine's Day I would take a partner to that film.
No, I understand. Well, yeah, Friday the 13th obviously is tomorrow. Valentine's Day the following day. What films will you be watching?
Well, I have to say, I went to see a film in Halloween. No, I've done it again. I've called it Halloween on Valentine's Day, and it was called Heart Eyes, and it was 18 rated. But it's the perfect mesh because it's about a couple who are actually not a couple. But you know how, like in the Scream films, it's all about the formula, and if you fit a particular formula, you know that you're going to be the next one to be disposed of. Well, this is a film about a couple who thwart inadvertently the killer. And it's a film that appeals both to a rom-com audience and to a horror audience. It's got all the tropes that you'd see in a film like Sleepless in Seattle, but also what you'd expect from a film like Friday the 13th. And it kind of worked. But the funny thing is, I was watching the couples who came into it was in Rochester exactly a year ago, and you could tell that there was a couple, and one of them was into horror, one into rom-com, and I guess they both felt slightly vindicated afterwards and probably thought, you know, that film was brilliant. It was 5 out of 5 for both of us, but neither of us actually liked the other half of the film that the other one did. So Cat Person is another one that I saw at Sundance a few years ago about the fears around dating. So horror and dating and romance actually make for quite comfortable bedfellows, or uncomfortable bedfellows, depending on your point of view.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, Friday the 13th film franchise, so that has its backing there. But what do you think will be most popular? Do you think in general, if you were to take a survey of everyone, do you prefer romance or do you prefer slashers? What do you think would sort of chalk up a higher rate?
Over the last few years, I've been so conscious of the spate of horror films that are doing the rounds. I was looking actually to see what I was watching this very week in years gone by. I saw a film called Baghead 2 years ago, which is a horror film. I mentioned Heart Eyes last year. I mean, some of the cinemas in the county are showing Sleepless in Seattle appropriately on Valentine's Day. Be interesting to see how many go and watch that compared to some of the horror films that are doing the rounds at the moment. I mean, there's a whole range. I mean, depending on your point of view, there are plenty of means of escaping from either genre, but horror, I think on a Thursday night after I finish talking here, I normally go to the cinema. 9 times out of 10, there's a horror film on the billing.
I see, and as I mentioned, another episode of Kent Film Club tonight. When you've interviewed guests over the past, do you tend to see any of these romance films or horror films? Are there any that stand out in your mind?
The one that stands out, and it's been picked, I'd say 4 times, maybe 5, is When Harry Met Sally. And do you know why that works? Because it's slightly skew-iff. It has all the ingredients that you'd expect in a rom-com. But Billy Crystal is a very atypical leading man, and he brings dark humour. And also, you know, in a way, he's subverting the conventions. You know, that scene that's Lou Fowkes, who was on the show very recently, I think she was talking about that bit where he's spitting the seeds of, you know, apple or strawberry, whatever he's eating. And on their first meeting with Meg Ryan, she says, gross.
I'm being told in my ear it's grapes, apparently.
Is it grapes?
Apparently it's grapes.
The grapes of wrath. Yeah, and it's so funny because you've got all of those sort of ingredients in a film, and you look at it and you think, they don't get on with, and that's the thing that makes it work. You think they're a mismatched pair, and at the end of it, you're thinking, of course, they're meant to be together. They're destined to be together. But that's not all that different from the tropes that you see in superstitious films that you'd expect around Friday the 13th. The idea of unknown forces, fate, destiny working its magic, or dark magic to bring a couple together or set them apart. So I think we like the idea around both horror films and rom-coms, and it's almost like potluck as to what we'll actually end up with on the night.
I see. I'm also thinking of some other kind of ways of crossing the genre. I suppose there's probably some rom-coms out there that are so bad, maybe to film heads like yourself, they are considered horror. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I'm sure there have been some in recent times.
Yeah, I mean, those one-dimensional films, which I mean, sometimes I really don't gel with films which don't go beyond, you know, you don't deal with the complexity in a relationship. It's almost like they have the first date, they fall out, they get back together, and it goes through the motions. You know, I mean, I like films that sometimes have twists on that, because in the real world, you can have a first date and you can engineer it, but what about the rest of your life? If it's meant to prefigure what's going to happen for the rest of your life, you know, in a way that's a very poor sense of how it all can be orchestrated. So I like films that sort of go a bit further and take you beyond that. Like You've Got Mail, you know, I'd like to see where those characters end up 2 years later rather than when they all end up, you know, the mismatched pair who are now, we think, happily ever after, but we don't see, but the happy ever after doesn't feel like a very satisfactory conclusion because it feels like it's been contrived in the last 5 minutes of the film.
Absolutely. There was a film I saw a few years ago called Barbarian. I don't know if you've seen it. And in the beginning, there's that sort of subversion where two people share an Airbnb, and then it all sort of goes like that. I'm wondering, are there any films that come to mind for you that are horror or slasher or even sort of that kind of genre that have this almost romantic subplot?
Well, I mean, funnily enough, even the Scream films, at the heart of it is about people who care for other people. All the Halloween films, you know, at the end of the day, it's about the importance of family. I mean, even like those Jason Statham films, they're very violent, but it's family, you know, at the heart of them. I don't do that, but I should take acting lessons. But in a way, that's at the heart of it. You see, it's love. Pretty Woman is a film. The end of it, it's about tenderness between people. And that's one of those, you know, really big films that you'd expect to see on Valentine's Day. So I think it crosses genres.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for that, Chris, and for your Vin Diesel impression. So much appreciated. And yeah, we'll see you soon.
Pleasure.